Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Foodcaster. I am Michael, and today we have Sam Eats Plants.
Hi.
How you doing, Sam?
I'm great. I decided I'm going to let my hair do what it wanted to do today, so.
Oh.
And I'm happy about that. Yeah.
Well, you're watching Foodcaster, and we talk about having a relationship with food, not just being a foodie, but really using fuel, right?
Food as fuel.
Yeah, that's how you say it. So, from the episodes that we've done so far, one of them I think was very special to me. We talked about cancer. And the interesting thing is, some people were hitting me up and they were saying, well, I need to eat what I want to eat. Or they're saying, well, I know my body and I need to have meat or I need to have chicken. What is your reaction to that? So,
if you're sick with a chronic illness,
okay, mm-hmm.
You definitely don't need to eat any of that, okay? So let's say you're not sick.
Okay.
I need to eat meat. Well, then ask yourself.
Okay.
How much and how often? What does that look like to you? If the Center for Disease Control says eating meat more than 18 ounces in a week is cancer causing, then readjust what are you actually doing in your day. Are you eating 3 slices of bacon in the morning, cold cut turkey sandwich at lunch, and are you eating like pork chop with veggies and maybe rice at dinner? Because now you're pushing the weekly limit that the CDC put. Not even like what may actually be more healthy or not. So when people say, I need to eat meat, well, how much? Like once a year? Or 5 times a day? Like what is your need? And then the idea that this is what your body is built for, which is completely preposterous. If you know anatomy and you know biology, you understand that our system is not adept for eating meat except for one evolutionary change that happened in our bodies where our stomachs now secrete pepsin, which is the only thing that can really break down the protein chains in meat. That's it. Nothing else has changed. So our intestines are like 6 times as long as they should be if we actually were meat eaters.
Wait a minute. So I want to make sure I get this clear. So what you're saying is, through evolution,
yes,
we've created a way
yes,
to digest this meat.
We've created one way that could help with meat digestion, but there's so many other things in eating meat that we don't digest properly. That one enzyme doesn't help us completely digest meat. It helps digest meat a little bit.
Wow.
Nothing else has changed in our body.
Wow.
We don't have fangs. We don't have the type of jaw strength or clench like wolves or massive cats do, like lions, things like that. We don't have any of the natural things that we need to eat meat. If we came across a cow, right? Because cows are easy to capture. They just stand there, right?
Or you just push them over.
Or you push them over.
Right.
You're good.
Right.
So without tools,
right?
How are we eating that? We're going to stand over that cow. What are we going to do? We're going to take our nails into that skin? Have you tried?
No.
You can't break that skin.
Wow.
That's why we use it to make boots and things like that. It's strong. What are we going to do? Nothing. Because we can't eat it. So this also goes back, like, other people have said that around, like, well, I know my body and I need meat. And the only thing I ever ask people to do is ask what's the quantity and how often. I'm not even going to dispute that they may be right. Maybe. But I know it's not the quantity that they think they are, that they need. But I just want to remind people how human beings started to eat meat. We started as scavengers.
Right.
We were not eating flesh because, like I said, we have nothing in our bodies that can help us to hunt. We don't see well, our hearing sucks, We can't run fast. We are not very strong. We don't have claws. We don't have fangs. We don't have these natural abilities to hunt and capture food. So we would wait in times of famine, in times of like drought, when there were no plant life to really eat. Humans would camp out to see like some actual predators killing prey. And then when they would leave, come and scavenge what's left. That's how humans began eating, out of survival necessity, not diet.
So it was not a part of diet.
It was not a part of the human diet. I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of years ago, so I don't know when that began. But no, it wasn't. And then honestly, the advent of fire is what allowed it to help us to kill bacteria and eat it a little bit more without getting so sick. Without that, there were also more issues because we're not equipped to eat raw flesh. It doesn't work very well in our system. Our intestines are too bumpy. They have these things called villi that's all in and out, like everywhere. And the meat is fiberless. So the only thing that moves things through your intestines is fiber. So when you eat meat and you don't have fiber, it just sticks there and it putrefies.
So when you look at it just naturally, you're supposed to eat things with fiber. You're supposed to eat plants.
Definitely supposed to eat plants. We should be getting like 100 grams a day, and we kind of get 12. It's kind of modern. But like, yeah, the meat doesn't really move. And so when someone says, I know my body, I need meat, it's very possible that with all the other junk we tend to eat in our diet, that if some people get off of meat and then increase all the carbohydrate junk, they might not feel so good because they're increasing the wrong stuff. They're increasing processed foods. This is something I've found. And so one of my advice is, when you stop eating meat, can you just eat real food? Potatoes, carrots, lettuce, kale, apples, oranges, bananas, almonds.
No, someone's going to sample you right now and make a song. That'd actually be kind of cool.
I've also heard people who've gone vegetarian and then they say they have all these digestive issues eating beans and rice. I believe them. This is probably very true. If you don't come from a culture where rice was a daily staple for meals, grains start becoming hard to eat, and so does the beans. Now, if you're Caribbean or Asian or African or South American, like everywhere but European, if you're everywhere else but European, you have a culture of eating beans, you have a culture of eating rice. Definitely rice everywhere, but beans most other places.
Okay.
So if you don't have that in your ancestry, and now you took out meat, and where you're replacing those calories is coming mostly from beans and rice, you might have digestive issues. Like, there are some real gas issues that come with eating beans that some people never have because they just always had it. They always ate beans. They don't have that. So these are real. So I believe that someone might say that, but do they see the whole picture? Are they looking at their whole actual dietary life?
Right.
And like, if you took out meat, that means you're replacing it with something. What is that something? Does that something add to you or take away from you?
If you look at parents, definitely grandparents, 100% great-grandparents, they weren't eating that much meat. They were eating meat, but they weren't eating that much.
So they weren't eating that much. And this is another argument that I feel is more of an American argument than anything else. We have the ability to have almost anything we want when we want and where we want it. And this includes our food habits. If we want a donut, we can get one easily. If we want a croissant, we can get it easily.
Right.
So we've created a culture where the way we eat is now normalized, like this is fine. And it's
because we eat what we want, when we want it.
And everyone does it.
Right.
And everyone does it, so it's normalized. But really, it's a perversion of a natural human diet in actuality. So, I need meat. I need meat every day. You're right. Even just going to their grandparents, and forget it if you go like to great-great-grandparents.
Right,
forget it. even just going to their grandparents, your grandparents did not eat as much meat as what you're eating now. It just was not as available.
Wasn't available.
It wasn't
economic.
Yeah, you couldn't buy it like that. It wasn't available like that. But what was available? People had more things growing. Potatoes, sweet potatoes, greens were abundant. And depending where you were, if we're talking about just America, certain fruits. Berries were everywhere. People ate most of that. And what did they do over the wintertime? They preserved the berries and they made jams. They made jelly. What they do with the wheat, they soured the dough so they can keep that longer. They did all these things in order to eat because meat wasn't there like that. If meat was a heavier part of their diet, they wouldn't have had to ferment and can everything. That wasn't part of our diet. Now, historically, in our modern Western times, the people that ate the most meat were royalty and the rich. So these are kings and queens and people right underneath them. But guess what they also had? They were the first ones to get what we now know as diabetes, heart attacks. It was them because they ate that way.
Right.
And nobody else ate that way. So other things would kill people like infectious disease, but not disease of diets. That didn't harm people because we didn't eat garbage. The wealthy ate garbage.
It was interesting. There was a documentary, and it was this little community, I believe it was in Australia, like natives, and they were asking them between, like, I guess, a generation, this generation, what do people, what's going on with their health? Oh, people are diabetes, blood pressure, cancer, all these things. They said, well, go further back. What were people dying of? And it's just interesting. It totally changed. And when they went a third generation back, well, what did people die of? Oh, well, we didn't really die of anything. It was only like accidents, weird accidents.
Yeah.
Or some sort of fight or war
or drowning or
drown, right?
Falling.
But it wasn't all the problems and stuff that they have. And then they went into when they were colonized, when they were taken over, they brought in a lot of bleached flour. Yes. Which caused a lot of problems.
Yes.
Soda.
Yes. Canned food. Yes, sugar.
And sugar.
Yep. Yeah. This happened everywhere. This happened to the Inuits in Alaska. It happened to the Northern Indigenous in Canada. Like, documented. They were, when the first Europeans were in Canada, these like very rural areas of Canada, so there weren't too many people. And one of the things they noted is when women had babies, they just had babies at home. Like, it wasn't anything, like that's what you did. And then they came and they brought specifically three main things, exactly what you said. The bleached flour, bleached sugar, and like jams and things like that, that have like sugar in it. Canned food. Canned food. And they started noting there was this uptick of the indigenous women having issues giving birth and having to go to the hospital. That's kind of like their hospital, like the colonizers' hospital, kind of having to go to the hospital because there's these issues. And it was correlated with the adoption of these new modern foods. If someone today in 2018 wants to really argue that they need these foods, there's nothing I can do for them. I mean, there's nothing. To me, you don't want to, and I'm not talking about not eating meat or like doing vegetarian or vegan things, but you're gonna argue you want to eat non-real food over real food, or these weird proportions of them. Even if you eat meat, meat has saturated fat, cholesterol, and protein. Then, when it comes to minerals and vitamins, it has only trace amounts, except iron, which is a heme iron, which is a whole other, like, it doesn't even digest properly in our system. Okay, so then people are like, the nutrients. What nutrients in meat? Wow. Listen, go put that in one of those apps and see how many minerals and vitamins come up. And then put one leaf of kale and see how many minerals come up with that. So if you're concerned about minerals and vitamins, you are making the wrong argument.
Wow.
Even if you want to eat your meat in the way you want to eat it, your argument is weak. So what is the argument? Because you've always done it? What is the example we have in the U.S. now? That heart disease is our biggest killer?
Wow.
That 50% of heart attacks result in death? That a cancer is our number 2 killer? That 1 in 2 men will be diagnosed with a cancer and 1 in 3 women will be diagnosed with a cancer? So are we going to operate on this barometer? Is this where you want to start?
Wow.
Then have fun. Have fun. I'm not. I'm not doing it. I'm not playing this ping pong game with you.
Right. Wow. I mean, what is the...
So many things is just how we feel. You know, it's been said before that it's easier to change someone's religion than change their diet. And
Wow.
you already know that's
deep.
hard. Yeah, and it's been written by a philosopher. There's so many cultural attachments to what you've decided is normal, especially when it comes to food. Especially when it comes to food that your mother that you might love gave you.
Right.
And how that mother might feel if you change it.
Interesting.
And like, what, this isn't good for you?
Right.
You know?
I pause so much when you say that because the first thing I think about was this comedian, and he was talking about just what you're saying as far as getting used to socialized to
Yeah.
eating chicken
Yeah.
versus some other countries
Yes.
eating dog
Yeah.
or eating
Or camel.
or a camel
Or ostrich.
or an ostrich.
Yes.
And it's all kind of jacked up
Yes.
because naturally we didn't eat any of these things. So who profited to make this normalized?
So in the
You know?
in the 1800s, I can only talk about the United States.
Right.
I don't know what happened the world over. In the 1800s in the United States, this is when they started. They had already discovered like this thing called protein and amino acids, which are really what make up protein, right?
Yay!
And somewhere, one of the corporations, oh, forgive me because I don't know, they were there was an issue going on. I'm so sorry that I do not know this as well as I know it, as well as I should. But there was this push of how do we get people to eat more meat? For whatever reason, they needed Americans to eat more meat. And they decided to hook this like idea of protein because it was new. They just discovered it, and they saw what it did for the body. And it repairs and it recovers. It makes things heal. And so they decided to push the importance of protein and push it and just keep putting it on meat. And that was the first, at least on paper, push to increase meat consumption in America. This was like after 1850. And then from there, I guess the way government might go and corporations are a part of our government and people want to make money, then other things start falling like that. Like, let's take sugar, right?
Okay.
Sugar is absolutely has nothing good to give us. Meat still can give us some good. You know, very little bit and a lot of bad, but it can. Processed sugar has nothing it can give us that's good. It injures our cells, destroys our capillaries, like it's injurious. Okay. So what should our, maybe, you know, not everyone wants our government to tell us everything to do, but what should our schools tell us? What should broadcasting TV tell us? What should food networks tell us? Avoid it at all costs. And absolutely, it should be avoided at all costs because that's the type of damage it does to the body. However, there's too much money behind politicians within our government brought by big sugar, especially in Florida. And you can look up how they donate to campaigns in Florida because Florida is a huge place where you can have sugar production. And so this is how they've tried to rectify it. So on the nutrition labels, on food, you will see, let's say, iron and vitamin C, these percentages. You'll have fat, you'll break it down, saturated, you see all the percentages of what you should have in a day, even sodium. They'll have sodium. What is the percentage of the day that you should have? When it comes to sugar, it's the only one that has no percentage next to it. Because the percentage should be 0, because that's how dangerous it is.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. So now everybody go to anything you have in your home that's a processed food and has a nutrition label, and where it says sugar, look for the percentage. There is none. It's blank.
Wow.
That's the only way they can do it because there is no percentage recommendation of processed sugar because it only harms you and does no good. And that's the way they've been able to kind of get around it. It's like, oh, we're not telling you to eat it. It's just...
We're just going to have it and everything.
Yeah. So all of this creates our culture. It creates a culture of food. It creates a culture of eating. And then when people break from the norm of what we decided our culture is, it's almost like an affront to them. It's emotional. It's like, how could you? You're really not going to eat this pizza? It's really not a big deal to eat these French fries? Come on, it's a birthday. You can't give your daughter a cake? This is what happens.
Right.
This is what happens. And to me, like I say, I don't give my children sugar-laden cakes on their birthday. I either make them raw pies, banana and ice cream, which is just bananas frozen, or some type of like sweetened with apple juice type of deal. Or I'll make like an apple pie without sugar in it, right? And I consistently get from people who know better, oh, but it's their birthday. Does that mean if it's your friend's birthday, you give them heroin? Like, I don't know what this means. If you know it is that damaging to a body, why would you give it to a child? That's not a treat. You're setting them up for addiction to a drug, and that drug is sugar. You're setting a climate for them to become a 35-year-old who says, well, I'm fine eating my donuts. I don't have anything wrong. That's what you're setting them up for.
And for a disclaimer, do what you feel you must do. Do the research. Not telling you what to do, just throwing out here the information so you could have a relationship with food. If you decide to do X, Y, Z, at least go in with some knowledge, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Be informed.
Be informed.
What you don't need to do is say that this sugar is good for the kids.
Right. Yeah. And I've heard people say that.
I've gotten yelled at a diner once. This woman saw my children, and she was like, "Oh, they're so cute," and she came over with some free donuts, and I was like, "Oh no." She goes, "You don't want us to eat donuts?" I'm like, "No, but thank you though." What, are you healthy or something? She said this, and I said, "Yeah." She goes, "But it's a child," and in my head, I'm like, that's exactly why you shouldn't give a child a donut.
Wow.
You're better off giving that to an adult, like we give adults alcohol,
right,
where we can like regulate ourselves and not start a culture of like.
Right. And this is why I think it's so important to not put out this foodie mentality, because it's this whole thing of eat and enjoy, and it does taste good. Everything tastes good. In fact, most of the things that are the worst for you taste the best.
Yeah.
But then you're like, well, why am I having this issue? Why is this relative or this friend, this neighbor having all these complications?
I mean, that burger probably sure tasted good with those cheese fries. How's your endometriosis doing?
Yeah.
I'm sure you love that charred medium rare steak. So how is that pancreatic cancer doing?
Yeah.
I mean, where do you draw your lines for your own self? For your own self.
Right.
All I need is for people to know what they're doing, and then they can do it informed. At this point, everyone knows what cigarettes does. There is nobody who's going to argue that cigarettes are good for you at this point. Nobody.
Right. Yeah.
No, we all know.
At this point.
So when
look how long it took.
It took about 60 years. But at this point, when you see those people smoking cigarettes, they are fully aware of what they're doing, and 90% of smokers don't want to smoke. So at least they know. We're not there yet. We're at the precipice.
Right.
Of, like, I think in 60 years, there'll be this huge shift of how people eat in this country.
Right.
But we're at the precipice where there's still like, people are realizing that they're feeling better this way, or they're reversing diseases, doing certain other things, and other people are feeling attacked by it.
Yeah.
And so they were like, no, that's no good.
Right.
I tried it for 3 days, it didn't work for me. Like, that's what's happening. And it's just all emotional.
Right.
Because the data's there.
It is emotional. We're holding on to, like you said, what we had from our parents, what they were feeding us, or grandparents, or great grandparents, friends, culture.
The culture, and just the American ability to buy and do what we want.
Right. And I would like to say it's a world problem. This is a world problem because I've been in the Caribbean. A lot of people.
Yes.
But again, you could argue the American diet.
Yes.
You're seeing a lot more fast food places, a lot more processed food, and diabetes is up. Blood pressure is up.
Yes.
Cancer is up.
Prostate cancer is super high in Jamaica at this point. It's going to take... America markets itself really well. I mean, we're very good at that. If you see what people see about us around the world, like it looks like, I mean, most of our movies are in LA or New York. It looks like swanky and cool and sophisticated and whatever. And that's really not America. Those are those two cities. Most of America isn't like that.
Right.
But we market ourselves really well. So
They're not?
Of America?
I'm just messing with you. I'm just messing with you.
Have you been to Alabama? I have.
You don't even have to go that far. Pennsylvania.
Yeah, but what? Upstate New York.
Yeah, that's right.
Upstate New York. But we market ourselves so well that the idea of us in other countries is like, ooh, to do what they do, do what they do. And so our diet can be, if it's accessible, will be easily grabbed on, like locked onto in other cultures, because it's like, oh, it's American, it's cool, and they do it. And they're usually, because I've gone to Jamaica and I've had these conversations actually, they don't even realize the health implications that we're going through.
Right.
So
it's there, but they're not realizing the cause.
They're not really realizing. There's something missing. There's a disconnect with it.
Well, that's why we do this show.
Yes. Yeah.
Put the information. And also, if you have any questions, please just leave comments. If you're watching this on cable, awesome. Please continue to support. And you could definitely go to Sev Network on Facebook or Foodcaster Show. Gotta make sure you'll see the rainbow. You'll see Foodcaster in green specifically for this show. And definitely let us know. Actually, there was a question on, because we did 2 episodes dealing with cancer. What if you're stage 4? Is it a wrap?
No.
Okay.
Stage 4 just means that the cancers are above and below. So I just need people to really understand what stage 4 means. So it basically metastasized, and it's a lot of places. Depending on the cancer, because every cancer acts a little different, there are things you can do in that stage. A lot of oncologists might say, well, you only have 6 months or 12 months. This is all we can do. If you do this chemo, you might have 12 months. If you don't, you might have 6 months, which is true. But then there's others, many others. And I mean, I don't know if I can say this, but there's a beautiful YouTube channel, Crispy Cancer, and all he does is interview people who reverse their cancer, not doing the standard treatment, basically making lifestyle changes, including stage 4 people. And then you can hear the different things that some of these stage 4 people do, mostly going completely vegan or raw or all whole foods or like juicing or water cleansing or
Are they doing the chemo as well?
He doesn't interview people that do chemo.
Interesting.
It's only people who've reversed their cancer using natural methods.
Interesting.
So it's a plethora of information. And the reason why remember, cancer is also a marketing tool. It's made to create fear and confusion and like this hyper, like, I gotta do something. And you don't. Because once you find the cancer, it's probably been there for years. So give yourself a few months to really decide what you want to do, work with your doctor, see what you really want to do. But if it's a slow growing cancer, you have a beautiful opportunity to change your lifestyle, even if you do chemo and surgery radiation, even if you do all that. Change your lifestyle, have a better outcome, heal better, those tumors can shrink. Can I say one story?
Yeah.
There's this woman from New York, Chris Carr. Chris Carr was diagnosed at age 20-something, 31 or something like that, with a really, really rare cancer and like 24 tumors in her body, liver, lungs, and I believe kidney, right? The doctors at the time were telling her, one of them said you need a triple organ transplant, which actually could just kill you, right?
Wow.
And another doctor said something else, and everyone was giving her this kind of lifespan of when she was probably gonna die. But she said her golden line was because it was so rare, there wasn't a real treatment plan in place, so it allowed her to kind of be creative. And she went gluten-free, whole foods, vegan, overnight, stopped drinking, stopped taking like painkillers and all of that. She was like 31. Okay, she's like 45.
Oh, wow.
Still alive, thriving, never did chemo, never did radiation. And basically the lifestyle change did a lot. She managed her stress better. She moved out of the city, went upstate. These are things that really do help with healing. So no, stage 4 doesn't mean it's a wrap.
Okay.
It means a lot of effort needs to take place, and you really need to be focused 100% everything you're doing. But it doesn't mean necessarily it's a wrap. For some people, it might be.
Right.
But I know for